Hello, how the tech are you? Researchers attempt to poison AI art generators, alters images in ways undetectable to the human eye, but can corrupt the AI training process. Nightshade's purpose is not to break models, it's to disincentivize unauthorized data training and encourage legit licensed content for training. You showed the article, right?
Right. I like the robot with the poison image.
Unpoisoned image. This is like the results I got. Yeah, that one. And then the second one is like poisoned image. It looks pretty normal, but you look over to like the results from the AI generated images, and it's like the dragon one is like completely different.
Yeah, the dragon one looks like a bunch of e-pills or pebbles or something.
It's like, poison dragons, anyways.
We'll end up here with a bit of an arms race, right? Where, okay, great. Now this stuff is in there to poison the model. All right, well, maybe they'll just set the model up to know when something's in there to poison the model and ignore whatever it is poisoning the model. Like
that poison image, you can see that there's like just a little bit of noise in the image. And that's about the only thing that I could tell.
The original artist probably needs to be the one that puts that in their image.
All the AI models that have already been trained on images that they've stolen, like you can't really poison them now, right? It's only going to be on new images.
If it's just one more thing that makes it more difficult to rip people off, I suppose it's okay. Now I wonder the next step is, how is somebody going to abuse this? Yeah, I just wonder, like there's got to be some other nefarious use for this. Maybe we'll find out about it another day. Let's check in with this fraudulent Sam Bankman-Fried guy.
FTX failed, and now he's on trial for misappropriating funds from FTX. He actually took the stand recently in the trial. And how do you think that went before I actually go over?
Oh, I bet it went terribly, because this guy has delusions of grandeur and thinks he can save the world, and probably went up and told the court that he's saving the world.
Just in general, SBF was not allowed to explain to the jury how he relied on his lawyer's advice. So he's trying to claim that basically just followed what the lawyers said and took money as allowed that way. He also claimed that he had no knowledge of Alameda Research, which was this other company that basically Alameda Research had all the funds that were supposed to be in FTX, and they were just like gambling it in the crypto markets. And of course, that totally failed and caused the whole thing to collapse to begin with. But it gets even worse, because on multiple occasions, the judge asked SBF to stop talking after his long rambling answers began to annoy the judge. And later, the judge admonished SBF for trying to provide his own definition of market manipulation. I think we'll use my definition, not yours. And then finally, of course, SBF could receive a sentence of up to 110 years in jail.
Yeah, the rambling thing is not surprising, really, because it's like, from what I've heard from folks who've spoken about how he manipulated folks, he did it by talking a lot. It worked for a very long time for him, and so maybe he thinks he can pull that crap on the court. We call that grifter speak.
As I learn more and more about him, like, he really does seem like he had planned this the whole time, and it was just purely a scam from the beginning, basically.
Yeah, the idea that he had no idea about Alameda Research is just a lie.
I was going to say he was like intimately involved, but he was with the company, but he was intimately involved with the CEO of the company as well.
Like, yo, they had all your money. What are you talking about? You have to have known about them. Like, another example of like somebody who goes in and convinces other people that they're a genius, and then people believe them. And then all of a sudden, oopsie, things aren't really working out the way we thought they would.
Doing some crazy stuff, and was able to raise money from, including like playing a video game while being in a meeting with these VCs.
That's funny, because I actually had a guest on one of my shows, like, wanted to come on, and I found out they were playing a video game on my show, and I just removed them from my show.
Fair enough.
I'm more scrupulous on my live stream than these VCs were, but I think they just saw dollar signs, and the VCs probably had some inkling that regular people were going to get hurt throughout all this too, right? They're not, they may be evil, but they're not all stupid. They didn't know that they were being screwed over, but I think they probably knew that regular people were being screwed over. That's, if there's a silver lining to this, at least some venture capitalists got screwed over, I suppose. It's not as good as the not as good as the Theranos, where she screwed over Henry Kissinger, but maybe this guy screwed over Peter Thiel, and I don't know. It's an evil off between Peter Thiel and Henry Kissinger would be an interesting debate. It's this pattern of speech where they kind of where someone will go off on another like on a tangent, essentially, when they're maybe supposed to be telling you about something important, is not a thing that is unfamiliar to me on the other sorts of content that we create around here. It's literally called grifter speak. For a while, we were saying that it was conspiracy theorists, but then we saw people who weren't necessarily conspiracy theorists doing it.
Right.
Because they have to keep talking. You end up saying a bunch of bull crap. Whether they know it or not, they're manipulating you in the audience. If it's like sort of part and parcel to their content, especially if it's a little bit longer, that person's a grifter. Whether they're trying to rip you off or not, that's the model. And it seems like that was this guy's model when he was talking to potential investors. And then he went to court with it. And in court, actually, the judge can just be like, hey, shut up. I don't know who his attorneys are, but by them even having him like try to testify on his own behalf, I feel like they should be under investigation by the Bar Association next.
It's pretty much his only defense is for SBF to take the stand and try and defend himself, because there's not a whole lot else they can do.
The flip side of that is he could go up there and just accidentally admit to additional crimes. If you're used to just talking and talking and talking and you were doing a bunch of criming, if you keep talking, you're probably going to end up admitting to a bunch of extra crimes. It was like sort of like the rise and fall of pets.com, except pets.com, they just promised you maybe that they'd bring you some kitty litter, and this thing promised it would make you rich. I'm not big on the idea. This is a young guy. I think he's under 30, right? So I'm not really big on the idea of putting this guy in prison for the rest of his life. I think that we should reserve that kind of punishment for violence. I know that like people lost, some people may have lost their life savings, and I understand that there should be some comeuppance for that, but I don't know about throwing this guy in jail for the rest of his life. If he's technically inclined, there'd be no reason he couldn't go, I don't know if he's a software engineer, he could do software engineering. You just can't touch the money. Putting him in jail for 10 years versus 110 years, I don't know what good the extra 100 years does. Because I feel like for a guy like him who nobody ever told no, putting him in jail for 10 days is probably the end of the world for this guy. It might make him think twice. Yeah. And for anybody out there, don't work for somebody who also expects you to join a polycule. All right. Yeah. Join a polycule if you want and have a job if you want, but don't have the job at the polycule. Anyway, I guess it's my turn now. Elron, not the Hubbard one, the other one, claims that a post with misinformation will not be eligible for monetization on the X, formerly known as Twitter. The idea is to maximize the incentive for accuracy over sensationalism. I just found this about as easy to believe as probably whatever Sam Bankman-Fried was saying up on the stand during his trial, right?
Sam Bankman-Fried may be more credible.
Possibly, or at least less obviously lying. This new CEO, whose name escapes me now, was at the Recode event, and she said, well, we just hired 2 people actually in trust and safety, so they have at least 2. There's no incentive for this platform to curb misinformation, at least not at this point, because some of the estimates are that it lost 60% of its value, it lost over 60% of its ad revenue, and pretty much all that's left on there is people who are really in love with the platform, or people who are paying for that the blue check mark and spreading misinformation, actually, so far as I could tell. I mean, I'm on there, but that's because I have to be, and because honestly, it's like really fun to dunk on people on there now. Not even like shooting fish in a barrel on there if you want to dunk on people now. It's just like shooting into a pile of fish. By this time next year, I'm not even going to be on there because I'm unwilling to pay or attach my bank account to it. What he wants to do is get rid of all them pictures of him with Ghislaine Maxwell on that website. I don't know. I just get most of my misinformation from Twitter that I use for my shows about misinformation. If he did this, I'd be kind of pissed off. I'd have to go look for misinformation on Telegram again. And that place, say what you want about Twitter, Telegram is scarier than Twitter. Like the New York Times no longer has the gold or silver check mark because he got mad at them. I don't know if they were paying the $1,000 and he refunded them. It would be just like him not to refund him and actually just keep billing them for it and not give them the gold check mark. I do feel bad there's people who built their brand on there and now they're having to find other places to try to rebuild their following. I feel bad for those people. And I particularly feel bad for like sex workers, because Twitter's one of the only websites where sex workers were actually allowed to like openly be sex workers.
Well, now they're all on OnlyFans.
OnlyFans, you have to, like, the normies were at Twitter, so it allowed some crossover, and it allowed like normies.
That's true.
there's a way in which normies could interact with a sex worker, and maybe they had some, unfounded biases against people who do that kind of work, and they interact with a sex worker who's funny or interesting or has other cool stuff on there, and they're like, oh, maybe it starts to plant a seed and change their mind about like people who do sex for work. They kind of have to pay for the verification mostly to not get kicked off now, because Elon could just decide that he wants to run a Puritan website unless you paid him. I mean, anything's possible. He could go straight cottagecore on the website for all we know. I mean, he did try to buy that one lady a horse. Up next, we got the DMCA turns 25, and I am not planning on throwing a birthday party for the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Let me tell you, it hasn't always been great. It's actually kind of often been.
What are you talking about?
It's actually often been maliciously used to stifle speech or competition.
Sorry to talk over you, but it's like it has never been good. Everything bad that people said would happen, like all of that has happened.
It's been real bad for actually for the concept of fair use. There's no incentive, say, for a public intellectual to file a copyright claim if I am running some content criticizing them, right? Because actually that can in fact promote them. If the person doesn't like me, maybe they'll go like the public intellectual just because they don't like me, which, I mean, everybody likes me, but this is just a hypothetical. Maybe if you're criticizing a major movie studio and you use a little bit of their movie and they don't like what you're saying, they can file a DMCA claim on you.
Or you're just like reviewing their movie.
Right.
And they don't like something that you said in it, probably didn't even see it. They can take it down.
Right. Or you might not have even used a single frame of that movie, but YouTube is probably like, I got to do what these people say because of this Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Or no, you use literally a single frame and then that content ID scanner finds it. So nobody ever sees it, but you get taken down.
It was like at least 2 years that we were getting copyright claims from using the music of the Ruffies. They have a lawyer on retainer, and the lawyer took care of it. You know, we were having the same problem with music by the band NVS, and the lead singer of NVS just went through every distribution company he has, unchecked the thing like monetize content on my behalf if other people use it. And if that thing wasn't there, he contacted them. And then I guess if they said, oh, there's nothing we can do, we're just going to copyright claim this. He said, well, there's something I can do about this. I would like you to remove all of my music from your service because I would actually like people to be able to use my punk rock music. I don't make any money on it, and it's great if people use my punk rock on their videos. We're friendly with bands. There should be a very easy way for them to just go into YouTube and be like, no, actually, yes, I'm the copyright holder. Here's the proof. This channel can use my music. But because the way DMCA works, in that case, CD Baby, not even the copyright holder, is they're the big dog in that one. They have so much music, even though maybe the artists that are on that service don't want the copyright used in that way. It hurts like small creators' ability to network with small or like independent musicians, because the independent musician can't keep track of everybody they have distributing their stuff. And now the distribution service goes after the creator, even after the musician gave them permission. And now maybe the creator gets mad at the musician if they don't understand what's going on. And now it just stifles creativity in so many ways. And before the DMCA, you would have to actually prove that somebody stole your stuff. And then, like, what's interesting is the stuff we're talking about AI, where it just sort of like, well, I don't know. You can't really see what we're doing here. So how do you even know if we're violating the Digital Millennium Copyright Act? It's like, well, wait a minute. Definitely need to rework it. there definitely needs to be more protection for fair use. And there also needs to just be the person who owns the copyright should be able to just give you permission to use their stuff. And that should have to be honored. I guess you probably have to work like a public-private key or something like that. Nobody wants to do that because there's no money in that.
In fact, there's the opposite of money in it.
Right. You have to actually do work for something that you can't get paid for in that case. No happy birthday to you for the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Quickly, do you think anybody's going to actually reform it? Like, do you think that's going to actually happen?
Not right now.
I don't see any like push to do it right now. I mean, there's a lot of complaints about it.
There's a few things in this realm that need some work, and I don't see anything happening on it right now. I feel like the Communications Decency Act that includes Section 230, that also needs to like be revisited, probably just strengthened. Actually, more a matter of the people who might write the legislation don't know what they're talking about. There may be ways in which if they did try to fix the DMCA, we'd read it and go, uh-oh, we didn't mean this. Too, like, not to talk too much about this, but if one party brings it up, the other party's just gonna fucking oppose it. Like, well, that car may only be going in one direction, actually, but we'd have to see. We'll have to see. Anyway, whatever the opposite of happy birthday is to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, I have had many annoyances with it, though I've never had any takedowns, because in the end, I've been able to prove that I do have permission to use the stuff that I use.
Right.
But anyway, I guess that's the show. So I'll go ahead and do that. Everybody, this has been How the Tech Are You? This is our tech show. You can check out our other shows at echoplexmedia.com. Buy merch and memberships at eplex.store. You can buy a hat like the one I'm wearing or the shirt like the one I'm wearing that you can't see. Patreon.com/echoplex. You can give us money there and I don't know, we'll spend it on things. Have a great tech week.